everyone, I'm Michaela from MMSA, and I am the Sexual and Reproductive Health Officer. This is my assistant, Francesca Carson, and this is Clayton. Would you like to introduce yourself, Clayton?
Hi, I'm Clayton Mercieca. I'm the Community Manager of Allied Rainbow Communities. We're basically an organization in Malta that looks after the well-being and brings the LGBTIQ community together. And we organize events all year round for the community and allies, including Malta Pride, and we also manage the website gaymalta.com.
That's amazing. I mean, now for this segment, we're basically going to be having a discussion on inclusivity and sexuality. I'm going to get right into it. How would you define inclusivity, Clayton?
So straight to the point, I would say it's the opposite of excluding someone. So we're saying inclusivity is leaving no one behind. And that is something that we aim to achieve as a country, as different organizations work together. That although we realize there are different minorities, every minority has a right to live a free and equal life. Yes. So inclusivity, in actual fact, means no one is left behind and everyone is participant in the movement, in what we believe everyone should have, human rights.
Yes, exactly.
Lovely. And what is sexuality?
So sexuality is something very different to every person. Okay, we can have textbook answers and say some people are gay, some people are lesbian, but in actual fact, yes, everyone experiences sexuality in their own terms. Everyone matures at different times in their lives. And it's also our expression of how we love someone else, of how we express it with other people or with ourselves. And it really never dies. So even when we reach older age, sexuality doesn't leave us. It's still there, and we still want to experience our intimacy with someone, whether it's through touch, whether it's through hugging, or whether it's through sex. But yes, I believe that sexuality is so ingrained in our identity that yes, it's who we are, and no one can really define us of what we want to experience.
Exactly. For sure. I mean, and maybe we could explain the differences that there are between gender and sex.
So sex, when you look at it biologically, it's the sex characteristics usually that are assigned at birth. So usually you'd have someone born with a penis and someone born with a vagina. But there are also variances, and actually there are people who are intersex. So they are born with ambiguous characteristics. Sometimes they might have testes, but also a uterus, and there could be a variation. So in essence, sex is biologically related. When we're talking about gender, then it's something totally different. Gender is part of our identity, linked as well to sexuality. It's how we want to express ourselves. And some people, although they may be assigned as male, and eventually they might identify as female. So they want to then live their life as a woman, and vice versa. There are people who, so we're looking at transgender people and also non-binary. So when we're looking at gender nowadays, it's beyond saying male is someone with a penis and female is someone with a vagina. It's also people, their identities, and what they identify as.
I think it's very important that people understand the difference between the two, as they tend to get lost.
Yes,
you know?
Nowadays there is a very good illustration which is called the genderbread person, and basically it shows the genderbread person in the form of a gingerbread man, but person, and says sexual orientation, gender identity, and sexual characteristics are three different aspects of a person, and they're not necessarily interlinked. So because a person is born with a penis doesn't mean that he will live their lives as a man that society dictates as. And the way they express their love or their intimacy is also particular to their own experience.
For sure.
It's super important, especially nowadays as society is improving on these things. Models like this are really helpful because people, again, think that gender, sex, sexuality are all the same thing.
Yes, it's
So it's really important that there are these different models that.
Yes, and nowadays, yes, we're realizing, I think thanks to social media and celebrities nowadays identifying, for example, as non-binary, where up to 5 years ago, I would say, no one ever heard of the term non-binary, and still we have a lot of work to do when it comes to opening up attitudes,
Yes.
because some people don't believe that a person can not identify as either male or female, for example.
Exactly.
But as more people are opening up and more comfortable in sharing their life experience, we realize that yes, it doesn't mean that life is all male and female. There are people who live beyond that binary, and also people who are very fluid in their expression and in their identity. So there's also the aspect of gender fluidity. And I think the beautiful thing about it is that we should all allow people to experience their identity fully without hindrances.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, growing up, we tend to let society dictate a lot of who we should be. But as we grow older, then you have more freedom to experience, to experiment, and to identify who you are. And I think that's very important. That's why it's so important to have a network of people, organizations, so you can refer to literature, celebrities, different reference points where you can say, okay, I can identify, I can relate with these people, and I can feel that this is my same experience.
Exactly. And on that note, do you think that sexuality is inclusive in Malta?
This is what I usually say. Because I am gay, but a white man, I still feel very privileged compared to other, for example, women in general. I think women are still largely discriminated. To trans people, especially, to people of color, and people with different abilities. So although I am part of a minority, I feel that there are still a lot of other minorities and intersections that are still quite invisible. Even, for example, when we're talking about bisexual people, many people believe that it is just a phase, or they haven't chosen, or they're confused, or about pansexuality. So we have to allow people to feel safe enough to express themselves.
How do you feel this compares to other countries?
I would say there's still a lot to be done, but I think Malta, because our people who take decisions mostly have a pro attitude towards minorities, LGBT mostly, I say that a lot of people follow suit and tend to be more open-minded.
Yes.
But we never take this for granted. If, for example, like we've seen in America, like we've seen in Brazil, as soon as there are people in power who change the narrative in society, it is very easy that the narrative change and people will sway their opinion. So it's very important we're always on our feet, we can never take our rights for granted, and it's important to keep educating people.
And how do you feel that we can be more inclusive about sexuality in society? Like with any little thing, it could be even just how you address someone. You should ask them, do you want to be addressed as a he or a she or they?
In fact, just recently, at the time of recording yesterday, we saw a person going into a gynae appointment and was being mocked because they were being seen as a man when in fact the person is a woman. So I think simple things like education at all levels of society helps a lot. But also, for example, I would expect the healthcare settings to have name tags that also show the pronouns, how they want to be identified. Such a simple thing can go a really long way in helping people feel safer, create a discussion, because I do that in my email signature, using he, him as my pronouns. It allows a better conversation and people to be more educated.
And what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their sexuality or feeling included?
Relating to what I did and many others did, I believe is creating your own family or friends of choice. Finding people who you can feel that you can open up to, that you feel safe with, finding professionals who are open-minded and can affirm who you are and not just tolerate. I don't really believe tolerance is where we should aim at. I think we should aiming at affirmation and celebrating everyone's individual identity.
Definitely.
And also education as well. It's important to keep making people more aware.
Of course.
Very much needed. So, is there any local organization that can help these people troubled by sexual inclusivity, and how can we help as a society, as a Maltese society?
Yes. Luckily, in Malta, we have 4 main NGOs, I would say, that work in LGBT inclusiveness. So there's Allied Rainbow Communities organization, there's Malta Gay Rights, Malta LGBTI Rights Movement, and they offer rainbow support services. So they have professionals that can offer counseling, social work services. There's also LGBTI Gozo and DRACMAM. So I believe that, and we work very well together and we fill each other's gaps. So I believe, yes, as a country, we have already the services available. It's just, yes, other ally organizations like yourselves could also help in doing these collaborations to create more awareness and
for sure.
be a great ally, basically.
Thank you very much, Clayton.
Thank you.
From our end, that's all. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this little video.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.